When Turnus raised the flag of war above the Laurentine citadel, and the shrill horns blared, when he whipped up his eager horses and clashed his sword on his shield, there was instant confusion. In that moment, the whole of Latium rose in a frenzy to take the oath, and young warriors were baying for blood. Their great leaders, Messapus and Ufens, and the scorner of the gods, Mezentius, were levying men everywhere, stripping the fields of those who tilled them. They also sent Venulus to the city of the great Diomede. Oh no, not Diomede, to ask for help and to let him know that Trojans were settling in Italy, that Aeneas had arrived with a fleet bringing the defeated household gods of Troy, claiming that he was being called by the fates to be king. The tribes were flocking to join this Trojan, this descendant of Dardanus, and his name was on the lips of men all over Latium. What all this was leading up to, what Aeneas hoped to gain from the fighting if fortune smiled upon him, Diomede himself would know better than King Turnus or than King Latinus. This is what was happening in Latium. The Trojan hero, descendant of Laomedon, saw it all, and great tides of grief flowed in his heart. His thoughts moved swiftly, now here, now there, darting in every possible direction and turning to every possible event, like light flickering from water in bronze vessels as it is reflected from the sun, or its image the moon. Now flying far and wide in all directions, now rising to strike the high coffers of a ceiling. It was night, and over the whole earth the weary animals, all manner of birds and all manner of flocks, were already deep in sleep before Father Aeneas, on the bank of the river, under the cold vault of the sky, heart-sick at the sadness of war, lay down at last and gave rest to his body. There on that lovely river he saw in his sleep the god of the place, old Tiber himself, rising among the leaves of the poplars. He was veiled in a blue-green cloak of fine spun flax, and dark reeds shaded his hair. He then spoke to Aeneas, and lightened his sadness with these words: "You who are born of the race of gods, who are bringing back to us the city of Troy, saved from its enemies, who are preserving its citadel Pergamum for all time, long have we waited for you in the land of the Laurentines and the fields of Latium. This is the home that is decreed for you. This is the home decreed for the gods of your household. Do not give it up. Do not be intimidated by the threat of war. All the angry passions of the gods are now spent. But come now, so that you may not think what you are seeing is an empty dream. I tell you that you will find a great sow with a litter of 30 piglets lying beneath ilex trees on a shore. There she will lie all white on the ground, and the young around her udders will be white. This will be a sign that after 3 times 10 years revolve, Ascanius will found the city of Alba, white in name and bright in glory. What I prophesy will surely come to pass. Attend now, and I shall teach you in a few words how you may triumphantly resolve the difficulties that lie before you. The Arcadians are a race descended from Pallas. They came to these shores, following the standards of their King Evander, chose a site here, and established in these hills a city called Pallantium, after their founder Pallas. This people wages continual war with the Latin race. Welcome them into your camp as your allies. Make a treaty with them. I will take you to them straight up my river between these banks, and you will be able to row upstream into the current. Up with you then, son of the goddess. for the first stars are beginning to set. Offer due prayers to Juno, and overcome her angry threats with vows and supplications. To me you will give honour and make repayment when you are victorious. I am that full river whom you see scouring these banks, and cutting through the rich farmland. I am the river Thybris, blue as the sky, and favoured of heaven. Here is my great home. My headwaters rise among lofty cities. So spoke the river god, and plunged to the bottom of a deep pool. The night was over, and so was Aeneas's sleep. As he rose, he looked up to the light of the sun rising in the sky, took up water from the river in cupped hands, and poured out these words of prayer to the heavens. O you Laurentine nymphs, nymphs who are the mothers of rivers, and you, Father Thybris, with your holy stream, receive Aeneas, and now after all his suffering keep him safe from peril, in whichever of your pools you may be, at whichever of your sources, you who pity our misfortunes, in whatever land you emerge in all your splendour, I will always pay you honour and always make offerings to you. O horned river, king of all the waters of Hesperia, only be with me, and by your presence confirm your divine will. So speaking, he picked out two I don't know how to say that word. So speaking, he picked out two Byames from the fleet, manned them with rowers, and at the same time put some of his comrades on board in full armour. Now suddenly before his astonished eyes there appeared a portent. There through the trees he caught sight of a white sow, with offspring of the same colour lying on the green shore. This sow devout Aeneas offered to you as a sacrifice, even to you, O greatest Juno, leading her to your altar with all her young. And all that long night the Thybris calmed his flood, reversing his current, and was as still and silent as a peaceful lake or quiet marsh. There were no ripples on the surface of his waters, and no toiling for the oar. Thus they began their journey, and made good speed, raising a cheerful noise as the caulked hulls glided over the water. The waves were amazed, and the woods were full of wonder at the unaccustomed sight of far glinting shields of warriors and painted prows floating on the river. So they did wear out the night and the day with rowing, and mastered all the long windings of the river, moving under the shade of all manner of trees, and cleaving green woods in smooth water. The fiery sun had climbed to the middle of the vault of heaven, when they saw in the distance walls and a citadel, and the roofs of scattered houses. What Roman power has now raised to the heights of the sky, in those days was a poor land ruled by Evander. Quickly they turned their prows to the bank and steered for the city. It so happened that on that day the Arcadian king Evander was performing yearly rites in honour of the mighty Hercules, son of Amphitryon, and was sacrificing to the gods in a grove outside the city. His son Pallas was with him, and with him also were all the leading warriors and the senators, poor men as they were. They were offering incense, and warm blood was smoking on the altars. When they saw the tall ships, and saw them gliding through the dense grove with men bending to the oars in silence, they were seized with sudden fright, and rose in a body, abandoning the sacred tables. Not so Pallas. Boldly he told them not to disturb their holy feast, and seizing a weapon he rushed off to face the strangers by himself. "What is it, warriors, that has driven you to try these new paths?" he called out from the top of a mound, while he was still at a distance. Where are you going? What race are you? Where is your home? Is it peace you are bringing us, or war?" Then Father Aeneas replied from the high poop of his ship, holding out in his hand the olive branch of peace. "We are of the Trojan race. These weapons you see are for use against our enemies, the Latins. It is they who have driven us here, exiles as we are, with all the insolence of war. We are looking for Evander. Tell him of this. Say to him that the chosen leaders of the race of Dardanus have come to ask him to be their ally in battle." At this great name, Pallas was dumbfounded. "Whoever you may be," he cried, "leave your ship and come and speak with my father face to face. Come as a guest into our house." With these words, he took Aeneas by the right hand in a long clasp, and they moved forward into the grove, leaving the river behind them. Then Aeneas dressed the king. No, he didn't dress him. Then Aeneas addressed the king with words of friendship. "O noblest of the race of the Greeks, fortune has willed that I should come to you as a suppliant with an olive branch, draped with wool. I was not alarmed at the thought that you are a leader of Greeks, an Arcadian, and joined by blood to the 2 sons of Atreus, for I am joined to you by my courage, and by the holy oracles of the gods, by our fathers who were kinsmen, and by your fame which is known throughout the world. All these have driven me here by the command of the fates, and I have willingly obeyed. Dardanus, the first founder and father of the city of Troy, sailed to our Teucrian land. According to the Greeks, he was the son of Electra, and that same Electra was the daughter of Atlas, the mighty Atlas who carries the circle of the heavens on his shoulder. On your side, you are the son of Mercury, and he was the son of Maia, conceived and born on the snow-clad top of Mount Cyllene. But the father of Maia, if we put any trust in what we hear, was Atlas, that same Atlas who supports the stars of the sky. And so we are of one blood, 2 branches of the same family. Trusting in this, I have not sent emissaries or made trial of you in advance by any form of subterfuge, but have come in person as a suppliant to your door, and laid my life before you. The same race harries us both in bitter war, the Rutulians of King Daunus, and they are persuaded that if they were to drive us away, nothing would prevent them from putting all the heartlands of Italy under their yoke and becoming masters of the Tyrrhenian Sea to the south and the Adriatic to the north. Take the right hand of friendship I offer and give me yours. Our hearts are strong in war, our spirits are high, our fighting men are tried and proved." So spoke Aeneas. All the time he was speaking, Evander had been gazing at his face and his eyes and his whole body. He then replied in these few words: "Bravest of the Trojans, I welcome you with great joy, and with great joy I recognize who you are. Oh, how well do I recall the words of your father, the very voice and features of the great Anchises. For I remember that when Priam, son of Laomedon, was on a visit to his sister Hesione in the kingdom of Salamis, he came on to visit us in the cold lands of Arcadia. In those days the first bloom of youth was still covering my cheeks, and I was full of admiration for the leaders of Troy. Priam himself, too, I admired, but taller than them all walked Anchises. With all a young man's ardour, I longed to speak with him and put my right hand in his, so I approached him and led with full heart to the walls of Aeneas. When he was leaving, he gave me a wonderful quiver filled with Lycian arrows, a soldier's cloak interwoven with gold thread, and a pair of golden bridles, which now belong to my son Pallas. So then, the right hand of friendship, for which you ask, has already been given in solemn pledge. And as soon as tomorrow's sun returns, I shall send you on your way, and you will not be disappointed with the reinforcements and supplies I shall give you. Meanwhile, since you are here as friends, come favour these annual rites of ours, which it would be sinful to postpone, by celebrating them with us. It is time you began to feel at home at the tables of your allies. The food and drink had been cleared away, but as soon as he was finished speaking, he ordered them to be replaced. And the king himself showed the Trojans to seats on the grass, but took Aeneas apart to a couch of maple wood and seated him on a rough lion's skin for a cushion. Then the priest of the altar and some chosen warriors served with great good will the roast flesh of bulls, loaded into baskets, the grain which is the gift of Ceres, worked by the hand of man, and poured out the juice of Bacchus, wine. Aeneas and the warriors of Troy then feasted together on the whole chine and entrails of the sacrificial ox. After their hunger was relieved and their appetite satisfied, King Evander spoke as follows. This annual rite, this set feast, and this altar to a great divinity have not been imposed upon us by any vain superstition working in ignorance of our ancient gods. It is because we have been saved from desperate dangers, my Trojan friend, that we perform this worship and renew it yearly in honour of one who has well deserved it. First of all, look at this vaulted cavern among the rocks. You see how this great massive home inside the mountain has been torn apart and is now abandoned, with boulders lying everywhere in ruins. Here, deep in the vast recesses of the rock, was once a cave which the rays of the sun never reached. This was the home of a foul-featured, half-human monster by the name of Cacus. The floor of the cave was always warm with freshly shed blood, and the heads of men were nailed to his proud doors and hung there pale and rotting. The father of this monster was Vulcan, and it was his father's black fire he vomited from his mouth as he moved his massive bulk. Long did we pray, and in the end we too were granted the help and presence of a god. For the great avenger was at hand, exulting in the slaughter of the triple-bodied Geryon, and the spoils he had taken. The victorious Hercules was driving the huge bulls through our land, and the herd was grazing the valley and drinking the water of the river. But Cacus was a robber, and thinking in the savagery of his heart not to leave any crime or treachery undared or unattempted, he stole from the pasture 4 magnificent bulls and as many lovely heifers, so that there would be no hoofprints pointing forwards in the direction of the cave. He dragged them by their tails to reverse the tracks, and was now keeping his plunder hidden deep in the darkness of the rock. There were no tracks leading to the cave for any searcher to see. Meanwhile, when his herd had grazed its fill, and the son of Amphitryon was moving them out of pasture and preparing to go on his way, the cows began to low plaintively at leaving the place, filling the whole grove with their complaints, and bellowing to the hills they were leaving behind. Then deep in the cave a single cow lowed in reply. Cacus had guarded her well, but she thwarted his hopes. At this Hercules blazed up in anger. The black bile of his fury rose in him, and snatching up his arms and the heavy knotted club, he made off at a run for the wind-swept heights of the mountain. Never before had our people seen Cacus afraid. Never before had there been terror in these eyes. He turned and fled, running to his cave with the speed of the wind, fear lending wings to his feet. There he shut himself up, dropping a huge rock behind him, and breaking the iron chains on which it had been suspended by his father's art, so that its great mass was jammed against the doorposts and blocked the entrance. There was Hercules in a passion, trying every approach, turning his head this way and that, and grinding his teeth. 3 times he went round the whole of Mount Aventine in his anger. 3 times he tried to force the great rock doorway without success. 3 times he sat down exhausted in the valley. Above the ridge on top of the cave there stood a sharp needle of flint, with sheer rocks falling away on either side. It rose to a dizzy height, and was a favourite nesting place of carrion birds. Hercules put his weight on the right-hand side of it, where it leaned over the ridge towards the river on its left. He rocked it, loosened it, wrenched it free from its deep base, and then gave a sudden heave, a heave at which the great heavens thundered. The banks of the river leapt apart, and the river flowed backwards and along. The cave and the whole huge palace of Cacus were unroofed and exposed to view, and his shadowy caverns were opened to all their depths. It was as though the very depths of the earth were to gape in some cataclysm and unbar the chambers of the underworld. The pale kingdom loathed by the gods, so that the vast abyss could be seen from above, with the shades of the dead in panic as the light floods in. So Cacus was caught in the sudden rush of light, and trapped in his cavern in the rock, howling as never before, while Hercules bombarded him from above with any missile that came to hand, belabouring him with branches of trees and rocks the size of millstones. There was no escape for him now, but he vomited thick smoke from his monstrous throat, and rolled clouds of it all around his den to blot it from sight. Deep in his cave, he churned out fumes as black as night, and the darkness was shot through with fire. Hercules was past all patience. He threw himself straight down, leaping through the flames where the smoke spouted thickest and the black cloud boiled in the vast cavern. There, as Cacus vainly belched his fire in the darkness, Hercules caught him in a grip and held him, forcing his eyes out of their sockets and squeezing his throat till the blood was dry in it. Then, tearing out the doors and opening the dark house of Cacus, he brought into the light of heaven the stolen cattle whose theft Cacus had denied, and dragged the foul corpse out by the feet. No one could have enough of gazing at his terrible eyes and face, at the coarse bristles on his beastly chest, and the throat charred by fires now dead. Ever since that time we have honoured his name, and succeeding generations have celebrated this day with rejoicing. This altar was set up in its grove by Potitius, the first founder of these rites of Hercules, and by the Pinari, the guardians of the rites. We shall always call it the greatest altar, and the greatest altar it will always be. Come then, warriors, put a crown of leaves around your hair in honour of this great exploit, and hold out your cups in your right hands. Call upon the God who is a God for all of us, and offer him wine with willing hearts. No sooner had he spoken than his head was shaded by a wreath and pendant of green silver leaves of Hercules' poplar woven into his hair, and the sacred goblet filled his hand. Soon they were all pouring their libations on the table and praying to the gods. Meanwhile the evening star was drawing nearer as the day sank in the heavens, and there came a procession of priests led by Potitius, wearing their ritual garb of animal skins and carrying torches. They were starting the feast again with a second course of goodly offerings, and they heaped the altar with loaded dishes. Then the Salii, the priests of Mars, their heads bound with poplar leaves, came to sing round the altar fires. On one side was a chorus of young warriors, on the other a chorus of old men, hymning the praise of Hercules and his great deeds, how he seized the two snakes, the first monsters sent against him by his stepmother, and throttled them, one in each hand, how he too tore stone from stone the cities of Troy and Ocalia, famous in war, how he endured 1,000 labours under King Eurystheus, to fulfill the fate laid upon him by the cruel will of Juno. O unconquered Hercules, they sang, you are the slayer of the half-men born of the cloud, the centaurs Pyleus and Pholus, of the monstrous Cretan bull, and the huge lion of Nemea. In its rocky lair, the pools of the Styx trembled at your coming, and the watchdog of Orcus cringed where he lay in his cave, weltering in blood on heaps of half-eaten bones. But nothing you have seen has ever made you afraid, not even Typhoeus himself, rising up to heaven with his weapons in his hands. Nor did reason fail you when the 100 heads of the Lunarian Hydra hissed around you. Hail, true son of Jupiter, the latest lustre added to the company of the gods. Come to us now, to your own holy right, and bless us with your favouring presence. To end their hymn they sang of the cave of Cacus, and Cacus himself breathing fire, till the whole grove rang and all the hills re-echoed. As soon as the sacred rites were completed, they all returned to the city. The king, weighed down with age, kept Aeneas and his son Pallas by his side as he walked, and made the way seem shorter by all the things he told them. Aeneas was lost in admiration, and his eyes were never still as he looked about, enthralled by the places he saw, asking questions about them and joyfully listening to Evander's explanations of all the relics of the men of old. This is what was said that day by Evander, the founder of the citadel of Rome. These woods used to be the haunt of native fauns and nymphs, and a race of men born from the hard wood of oak tree trunks. They had no rules of conduct and no civilization. They did not know how to yoke oxen for ploughing, how to gather wealth or husband what they had. But they lived off the fruit of the tree and the harsh diet of huntsmen. In those early days, in the flight from the weapons of Jupiter, came Saturn, from heavenly Olympus, an exile who had lost his kingdom. He brought together this wild and scattered mountain people, gave them laws, and resolved that the name of the land should be changed to Latium, since he had lain hidden within its borders. His reign was what men call the Golden Age. Such was the peace and serenity of the people under his rule. But gradually a worse age of baser metal took its place, and with it came the madness of war and the lust for possessions. Then bands of Ausonians arrived, and Sicanian peoples, and the land of Saturn lost its name many times. Next there were kings, among them the cruel and monstrous Thybris, after whom we Italians have in later years called the river Thybris. And the old river Albula has lost its true name. I have been driven from my native land and was setting course for the most distant oceans, when fortune, that no man can resist, and fate, that no man can escape, set me here in this place, driven by fearsome words of warning from my mother, the nymph Carmentis, and by the authority of the god Apollo. He had just finished saying this and moved on a little when he pointed out the altar of Carmentis and the Carmental Gate, as the Romans have called it from earliest times in honour of the nymph Carmentis. She had the gift of prophecy and was the first to foretell the future greatness of the sons of Aeneas and the future fame of Latium. From here he pointed out the great grove which warlike Romulus set up as a sanctuary. He was to call it the Asylum, and also the Lupercal, there under its cool rock, then called by Arcadian tradition they had brought from Parrhasia, the cave of Pan Lycaeus. He also pointed out the grove of Argiletum, and calling upon that consecrated spot to be his witness, he told the story of the killing of his guest Argus. From here he led the way to the house of Tarpeia and the Capitol, now all gold, but in those distant days bristling with rough scrub. Even then, a powerful sense of a divine presence in the place caused great fear among the country people. Even then they went in awe of the wood and the rock. This grove, said Evander, this leafy-topped hill, is the home of some god, we know not which. My Arcadians believe they have often seen Jupiter himself shaking the darkening Aegis in his right hand to drive along the storm clouds. And then here are the ruined walls of these two towns. What you are looking at are relics of the men of old. These are their monuments. One of these citadels was founded by Father Janus, the other by Saturn. This one used to be called the Janiculum, and the other Saturnia. Talking in this way, they were coming up to Evander's humble home, and there were cattle everywhere, lowing in the Roman Forum and the now luxurious district of the Carinae. When they arrived at his house, Evander said, the victorious Hercules of the line of Alcaeus stooped to enter this door. This was a palace large enough for him. You are my guest, and you too must have the courage to despise well. You must mould yourself to be worthy of the god. Come into my poor home, and do not judge it too harshly. With these words he led the mighty Aeneas under the roof tree of his narrow house, and set him down on a bed of leaves covered with the hide of a Libyan bear. Night fell, and its dark wings enfolded the earth. But his mother Venus was terrified, and with good reason, by the threats of the Laurentines and the savagery of the fighting. So she spoke to her husband Vulcan. Coming to him in his golden bedroom, and breathing divine love into her voice, she said, when the citadel of Troy was being ravaged in war by the kings of Greece, it was owed to fate, and was doomed to fall in the fires lit by its enemies. But I asked for nothing for those who suffered. I did not call upon the help of your art to make arms for them, although I owed much to the sons of Priam, and had often wept at the sufferings endured by Aeneas. I did not wish, O dearest husband, that you should exert yourself to no purpose. But now, in obedience to the commands of Jupiter, Aeneas is standing on Rutulian soil, and so now I come to you as a suppliant. I approach that Godhead which I so revere, and ask as a mother, I ask you to make arms for my son. You yielded to Thetis, the daughter of Nereus. You yielded to the wife of Tithonus when they came and wept to you. Look at all the nations gathering. Look at all the walled cities that have closed their gates and are sharpening their swords against me to destroy those I love. She had finished speaking, and he was hesitating. The goddess took him gently in her white arms, and caressed him again. Suddenly he caught fire, as he always did. The old heat he knew so well pierced to the marrow of his bones, and coursed through them till they melted, as in a thunderstorm when a fiery flashing rift bursts the clouds and runs through them in dazzling brightness. His wife knew and was pleased. She was well aware of her beauty, and she knew how to use it. Father Vulcan, bound to her by eternal love, made this reply: "You need not delve so deep for arguments. Where is that trust, O goddess, which you used to have in me? If your care for Aeneas was then as it is now, it would have been right for us even then to arm the Trojans. Neither the all-powerful father nor the fates were forbidding Troy to stand, and Priam to go on living for 10 more years. And now, if you are preparing for war, and this is what you wish, whatever care I can offer you in the exercise of my skill, whatever can be done by melting iron or electrum, anything that fire and bellows can achieve, you do not have to pray to me. You need not doubt your power." At these words he gave his wife the embraces so much desired, and then, relaxed upon her breast, he sought and found peace and repose for all his limbs. When the night had passed the middle of its course, when Vulcan's first sleep was over, and there was no more rest, just when the ashes are first stirred to rouse the slumbering fire by a woman whose task it is to support life by the humble work of spinning thread on a distaff, taking time from the night for her labours, she sets her slave women going by lamplight upon their long day's work, so that she can keep her husband's bed chaste and bring her young sons to manhood. With no less zeal than such a woman, and not a moment later, did the god of fire rise from his soft bed and go to work at his forge. Between Lipari in the Aeolian Islands and the flank of Sicily, an island of smoking rocks rises sheer from the sea. Deep within it is a great vault, and in that vault caves have been scooped out like those under Etna to serve as forges for the Cyclopses. The noise within them is the noise of thunder. Mighty blows can be heard booming on the groaning anvils. The caves are filled with the sound of hissing, as the Chalybes plunge bars of white-hot pig iron into water, and all the time the fires are breathing in the furnaces. This is the home of Vulcan, and Vulcania is the name of the island. Into these depths the god of fire descended from the heights of heaven. The Cyclopses were forging steel, working naked in that vast cavern, Brontes, Sterope, and Pyracmon. In their hands was a thunderbolt, which they had roughed out, one of those the father of the gods and men hurls down upon the earth in such numbers from every part of the sky. Some of it was already burnished, some of it unfinished. They had attached 3 shafts of lashing rain to it, 3 shafts of heavy rain clouds, 3 of glowing fire, and 3 of the south wind in full flight. They were now adding to the work the terrifying lightning and the sound of thunder, then fear and anger with their pursuing flames. In another part of the cave, they were working for Mars, busy with the wing-wheeled chariot in which he stirs up men and cities to war. Others were hard at work polishing the armour worn by Pallas Athene when roused. The fearsome Aegis and its weaving snakes with their reptilian scales of gold, even the Gorgon rolling her eyes in the bodiless head on the breast of the goddess. "Put all this away," he cried. "Whatever work you have started, you Cyclopses of Etna, lay it aside and give your attention here. Armour has to be made for a brave hero. You need strength and quick hands now. Now you need all your arts to guide you. Let nothing stand in your way." He said no more, but instantly they all bent to the work, dividing it equally between them. The bronze was soon flowing in rivers, the gold ore and iron, the dealer of death, were molten in a great furnace. They were shaping one great shield to be a match for all the weapons of the Latins, fastening the 7 thicknesses of it circle to circle. Bellows were taking in air and breathing it out again. Bronze was being plunged into troughs of water and hissing. The cave boomed with the anvils standing on its floor, while the Cyclopses raised their arms with all their strength in time with one another and turned the oar in tongues that did not slip. When Father Vulcan, the god of Lemnos, was pressing on with this work in the Aeolian Islands, Evander was roused from sleep in his humble hut by the life-sustaining light of day and the dawn chorus of the birds under his eaves. The old man rose, put on his tunic, and bound Etruscan sandals on the soles of his feet. Will you stop that? He then girt on a Tegean sword, with its baldric over the shoulder, and threw on a panther skin to hang down on his left side. Nor did the sentinels from his high threshold fail to precede him. His 2 dogs went with their master. As the hero walked to the separate quarters of his guest Aeneas, remembering their talk and remembering the help he had promised to give, Aeneas was up and about just as early, walking with Achates. Evander had his son Pallas with him. They met, clasped right hands, and sitting there in the middle of Evander's house, they were at last able to discuss affairs of state. The king spoke first. Great leader of the Trojans, while you are alive, I shall never accept that Troy and its kingdom are defeated. Beside your mighty name, the power we have to help you in this war is as nothing. On one side we are hemmed in by the Tuscan river. On the other the Rutulians press us hard, and we can hear the clang of their weapons round our walls. But I have a plan to join vast peoples and the armies of wealthy kingdoms to your cause. A chance that no man could have foreseen is showing us the path to safety. Fate was calling you when you came to this place. Not far from here is the site of Agilia, founded long ago on its ancient rock by the warlike Lydians who once settled there on the ridges of the Etruscan mountains. After this city had flourished for many years, Mezentius eventually took it under his despotic rule and held it by the ruthless use of armed force. I shall not speak of the foul murders and other barbaric crimes committed by this tyrant. May the gods heap equal suffering upon his own head and the heads of his descendants. He even devised a form of torture whereby living men were roped to dead bodies, tying them hand to hand and face to face to die a lingering death, oozing with putrefying flesh in this cruel embrace. But at last his subjects reached the end of their endurance and took up arms against him. Roaring and raging, he was besieged in his palace. His men were butchered, and fire was thrown on his roof. In all this bloodshed, he himself escaped and took refuge in the land of the Rutulians, under the protection of the armies and his guest friend Turnus. At this the whole of Etruria rose in righteous fury, and has now come in arms to demand that Mezentius be given up for punishment. They have thousands of troops, and I shall put you at their head. Their ships are massed all along the shore, clamouring for the signal for battle, but they are held in check by this warning from an aged prophet. O you chosen warriors from Lydian Maeonia, flower of the chivalry of an ancient race, it is a just grievance that drives you to war, and Mezentius deserves the anger that blazes against him. But it is not the will of heaven that such a race as the Etruscans should ever obey an Italian. You must choose your leaders from across the seas. At this, the Etruscan army had settled down again on the plain, held back by fear of these divine warnings. Tarchon himself had sent envoys to me with crown and sceptre, and offers me the royal insignia of Etruria if I agree to come to their camp and take over the kingdom. But my powers have passed with the passing of the generations. Age has taken the speed from my feet and the warmth from my blood. I am too old for command and no longer have the strength for battle. I would be urging my son to go, but he is of mixed stock through his Sabine mother, and is therefore part Italian. It is you who are favoured of the fates for your years and your descent. You are the man the gods are asking for. Go then, O bravest leader of all the men of Troy and Italy, and I shall send with you this my son Pallas, our hope and our comfort. Let him be hardened to the rigours of war under your leadership. Let him daily see your conduct and admire you from his earliest years. 200 horsemen I shall give him, the flower of our fighting men, and Pallas will give you 200 more in his own name. He had scarcely finished speaking, and Aeneas, son of Anchises, and his faithful Achates were still looking sadly down at the ground, and long would they have pondered in the anguish of their hearts, had Venus not given a sign from the clear sky. There came from the heavens a sudden flash of lightning, and a rumble of thunder, and the whole sky seemed to be crashing down upon them, with the blast of an Etruscan trumpet shrilling across the heavens. They looked up, and again great peals broke over their heads, and in bright sky, in a break between the clouds, they saw armour glowing red, and heard it thunder as it clashed. The others were all astonished, but the hero of Troy understood the sound, and knew this was the fulfilment of the promise of his divine mother. At last he spoke. There is no need, my friend, no need to ask what these portents mean. This is heaven asking for me. The goddess who is my mother told me she would send this sign if war were threatening, and bring armour made by Vulcan down through the air to help me. Alas, what slaughter waits upon the unhappy Laurentines! What a punishment Turnus will endure at my hands! How many shields and helmets and bodies of brave men will Father Thybris roll beneath his waves? Now let the Laurentines ask for war. Now let them break their treaties. When he had said this, he rose from his high throne. First of all, he stirred the fires smouldering on the altar of Hercules, and approached with joy the humble gods of home and hearth, whom he had worshipped on the day before. And then Evander and the warriors of Troy made sacrifice together of duly chosen yearling sheep. When this was done, Aeneas went back from Evander's house to his ships and his comrades, from whom he chose men of outstanding courage to follow him to war. The rest sailed downstream, floating effortlessly on the current, to bring Ascanius news of his father, and tell him what had happened. The Trojans going to Etruria were given horses. The mount picked out for Aeneas was caparisoned in one great tawny lion skin with gleaming gold claws. Swiftly round the little city flew the rumour that they were riding to the gates of the king of Etruria. Frightened mothers heaped prayer upon prayer, their fear increasing with the approach of danger, and the vision of Mars loomed ever larger before them. As they left, Evander took the right hand of his son Pallas, and clung to it inconsolably. If only Jupiter would give me back the years that are past, he cried, when I laid low the front rank of the enemy's battle line under the very walls of Praeneste, heaping up their shields and burning them to celebrate my victory. With this right hand, sending down to Tartarus their king Erelus, whose mother Feronia had given him 3 lives at birth. I shudder to remember it. 3 sets of armour to carry into battle. and 3 times I had to lay him dead on the ground. But in those days, this one right hand was able to take all his lives and strip him of all those sets of armour. No power on earth would be tearing me from your arms, my beloved son, and Mezentius would never have been able to trample upon his neighbour, putting so many of my countrymen to the sword, and emptying the city of so many of its people. But you gods above, and you, greatest Jupiter, ruler of the gods, I beseech you, take pity on an Arcadian king, and hear a father's prayers. If your divine powers and the fates are keeping Pallas safe for me, if I am going to live to see him again, and be with him again, then I pray for life, and harden my heart to endure any suffering. But if fortune has some horror in store, let me die now. Let me break off this cruel life here and now, before I can put a name to my sorrow, before I know what the future will bring, and while I still hold you in my arms, my dear son, my only source of joy, given to me so late in life. I want no grim news to come and wound my ears. These are the words that poured from the lips of Evander at his last parting with his son. When he uttered them, he collapsed and was carried into his house by his attendants. And now the gates had been opened, and the horsemen had ridden out, Aeneas among the first of them, and his faithful Achates with him. Then the other Trojan commanders with Pallas, conspicuous in the middle of the column, in his Greek military cloak and brightly coloured armour. He was like the morning star, which Venus loves above all the other starry fires, as he leaves his ocean bath and lifts his holy face into the sky to scatter the darkness. Mothers stood on the city walls, full of dread, and following with their eyes the cloud of dust and the glint of bronze from the squadrons. They were riding in their armour by the shortest route over rough scrub, and their shouts rose to the sky as the 4-hoofed beat of the galloping column drummed on the dusty plain. Near Carrhae's cold river there was a wide glade revered for generations as a holy place by the peoples near and far. It was enclosed on every side by a ring of hills clad in black firs. The story is told that the ancient Pelasgians, who in days long past were the first inhabitants of Latium, consecrated this grove and a holy day to be observed in it to Silvanus, the god of field and flock. Not far from here, Tarco and the Etruscans were occupying a strong position, and their whole army could be seen from the heights of the hills, encamped on the broad fields. Aeneas and his chosen warriors had come down to the camp, and, weary from the ride, were seeing to their horses and refreshing themselves. But the goddess Venus, bringing her gifts, was at hand, shining among the clouds of heaven. When she saw her son at some distance from the others, alone in a secluded valley across the icy river, she spoke to him, coming unasked before his eyes. Here now are the gifts I promised you, perfected by my husband's skill. When the time comes, you need not hesitate, my son, to face the proud Laurentides, or challenge fierce Turnus to battle. With these words the goddess of Cythera came to her son's embrace, and laid the armour in all its shining splendour before him under an oak tree. Aeneas rejoiced at these gifts from the goddess, and at the honour she was paying him, and could not have his fill of gazing at them. He turned them over in his hands, in his arms, admiring the terrible crested fire-spurting helmet, the death-dealing sword, and the huge, unyielding breastplate of blood-red bronze, like a dark cloud fired by the rays of the sun, and glowing far across the sky. Then the polished greaves of richly refined electrum and gold, the spear and the fabric of the shield, beyond all words to describe. There the god of fire, with his knowledge of the prophets and of time that was to be, had laid out the story of Italy and the triumphs of the Romans. and there in order were all the generations that would spring from Ascanius, and all the wars they would fight. He had made, too, a mother wolf stretched out in the green cave of Mars, with twin boys playing round her udders, hanging there unafraid and suckling at her, as she bent her supple neck back to lick each of them in turn and mould their bodies into shape with her tongue. Near this he had put Rome, and the violent rape of the Sabines at the great games in the bowl of the crowded circus, and a new war suddenly breaking out between the peoples of Romulus and the stern Sabines from Curies, led by their aged king Tatius. Then after these same kings had put an end to their conflict, they stood in their armour before the altar of Jupiter, with sacred vessels in their hands, sacrificing a sow to ratify the treaty. Close by, 4 horse chariots had been driven hard in opposite directions and had torn Mettus in 2. The man of Alba should have stood by his promises, and Tullus was dragging the deceiver's body through a wood while the dew of blood dripped from the brambles. There too was Porsenna, ordering the Romans to take Tarquin back after they had expelled him, and mounting a great siege against the city, while the descendants of Aeneas were running upon the drawn swords of the enemy in the name of liberty. There you could see him as though raging and blustering, because Horatius Cocles was daring to tear the bridge down, and Cloelia had broken her chains and was swimming the river. At the top of the shield, Manlius, the keeper of the citadel on the Tarpeian rock, stood in front of the temple and kept guard on the heights of the capital. The new thatch stood out rough on the roof of Romulus's palace, and here was a silver goose fluttering through the golden portico, honking to announce that the Gauls were at the gates. There were the Gauls close by, among the thorn bushes, climbing into the citadel under the cover of darkness on that pitch-black night. Their hair was gold, their clothing was gold, their striped cloaks gleamed, and their milk-white necks were encircled by golden torques. In each right hand there glinted 2 heavy alpine spears, and long shields protected their bodies. Here too Vulcan had hammered out the leaping Salii, the priests of Mars, and the naked Luperci, the priests' conical hats tufted with wool, the figure of 8 shields which had fallen from heaven, and chaste matrons leading sacred processions through the city in cushioned carriages. At some distance from these scenes he added the habitations of the dead in Tartarus, the tall gateway of Dis, and the punishment of the damned, with Catiline hanging from his beetling crag and shivering at the faces of the Furies. There too were the righteous in a place apart, and Cato administering justice. Between all these there ran a representation of a broad expanse of swelling sea, golden, but dark blue beneath the white foam of the crests of the waves, and all around it in a circle swam dolphins picked out in silver, cleaving the sea and feathering its surface with their tails. In the middle were the bronze-armoured fleets at the battle of Actium. There before your eyes the battle was drawn up, with the whole of the headland of Leucas seething, and all the waves gleaming in gold. On one side was Augustus Caesar, leading the men of Italy into battle, alongside the Senate and the people of Rome, its gods of home and its great gods. High he stood on the poop of his ship, while from his radiant forehead there streamed a double flame, and his father's star shone above his head. On the other wing, towering above the battle as he led his ships in a line, sailed Agrippa, with favouring winds and favouring gods, and the beaks of captured vessels flashed from the proud honour on his forehead, the naval crown. On the other side, with the wealth of the barbarian world and warriors in all kinds of different armour, came Antony in triumph from the shores of the Red Sea and the peoples of the dawn. With him sailed Egypt, and the power of the East from as far as distant Bactria. And there, bringing up the rear, was the greatest outrage of all, his Egyptian wife. On they came at speed all together, and the whole surface of the sea was churned to foam by the pull of their oars and the bow waves from their triple beaks. They steered for the high sea, and you would have thought that the Cycladic islands had been torn loose again and were floating on the ocean, or that mountains were colliding with mountains. To see men in action on those ships with their massive, turreted sterns, showering blazing torches of tow and flying steel as the fresh blood began to redden the furrows of Neptune's fields. In the middle of all this, the Queen summoned her warships by rattling her Egyptian timbrels. She was not yet seeing the two snakes there at her back, while Anubis barked, and all manner of monstrous gods levelled their weapons at Neptune and Venus and Minerva. There, in the eye of battle, raged Mars. Engraved in iron, the grim fury swooped from the sky, and jubilant Discord strode along in her torn cloak, with Bellona at her heels, cracking her bloody whip. But high on the headland of Actium, Apollo saw it all, and was drawing his bow. In terror at the sight of the whole of Egypt and of India, all the Arabians and all the Shebans were turning tail, and the Queen herself could be seen calling for winds and setting her sails by them. She had untied the sail ropes, and was even now paying them out. There in all the slaughter the god of fire had set her, pale with the pallor of approaching death, driven over the waves by the Iapgian winds blowing off Calabria. Opposite her he had fashioned the Nile with grief in every line of his great body, opening his robes, and with every fold of drapery beckoning his defeated people into his blue-grey breast and the secret waters of his river. But Caesar was riding into Rome in triple triumph, paying undying vows to the gods of Italy and consecrating 300 great shrines throughout the city. The streets resounded with joy and festivities and applause. There was a chorus of matrons at every temple, and every temple there were altars, and the ground before the altars was strewn with the bodies of slaughtered bullocks. He himself was seated at the white marble threshold of gleaming white Apollo, inspecting the gifts brought before him by the peoples of the earth and hanging them high on the posts of the doors of the temple, while the defeated nations walked in long procession in all their different costumes and in all their different armour, speaking all the tongues of the earth. Here Mulciber, the god of fire, had moulded the nomads and the Africans with their streaming robes. Here too the Legaeans and the Carians of Asia, and the Galonians from Scythia with their arrows. The Euphrates was now moving with a chastened current, and here were the Gaulish Morini from the ends of the earth, the two-horned Rhine, the undefeated Dahe from beyond the Caspian, and the river Araxes chafing at his bridge. Such were the scenes spread over the shield that Vulcan made and Venus gave to her son. Marvelling at it and rejoicing at the things pictured on it, without knowing what they were, Aeneas lifted it onto his shoulder, the fame and the fate of his descendants.